Hi, it's Andy here. Case study 18 and 31. It's a sad case study that we even have to talk about this because it really reflects on some of the um, more unfortunate areas of our sport where we're having to deal in this case study with a coach who's displaying unsportsmanlike conduct or ignorance of the rules. Really doesn't matter which. But you've read the case study. So jury's occupied after first run. Referees posted the report, and coach comes to you and says, "Hey, 18 isn't starting this afternoon." That was the where she was starting in the afternoon, and I'd like to replace it with 31. 18 is not going to start. Um, she's injured, and you look at him kind of quizzically and go, like, "Is this your first day on the job?" Not to be sarcastic, but really one of the obligations of any coach is that they know the rules of the ICR, and that's part of their accreditation. When coaches are accredited as a team captain or as a trainer, they they have certain rights and obligations. They have rights. They team captain, coach, trainer, different terms used in the ICR to describe those folks. They're entitled to accreditation. They get a lift ticket. They have course access. They're allowed to attend on the course when the course is not closed. So they're allowed to go on jury inspection with the jury. They're allowed to be in the start with their athlete, and they're allowed to be on the course during the race, provided they follow the instructions of the jury. They also have the right to file a protest. That's another one of the rights. They have obligations too. They have an obligation to attend to the team captain's meeting. They have an obligation to follow the rules set out in the ICR, and they also have an obligation to follow instructions of the jury. So you can figure out which ones of those rights or obligations that the coach is not fulfilling here, but clearly one of them is not following the rules of our sport. So when you get first off in this case that you're going to say, "No, I'm busy, leave me alone, I don't even know why you're asking me that question, go read your rules," and direct them towards the section on second run start. So so then the coach comes back and says, "Oh, I just got a call from my racer, and uh, uh, she just realized she stepped on a gate and she'd like to self-disqualify." You're going, okay. This is just another step. There's no such thing as self-disqualification. You're either disqualified or you're not. When you are disqualified, you're disqualified because your 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 uh, your disqualification has been noted by in one of the reports submitted to the referee to fill out the referee's report. And those reports come from the start referee, so they've got the DNSs and the not permitted starts. They also have identification of faults at the start. So then in the section in the report from the finish referee, you've got all the did not finishes. Okay, and then in between you've received all of the reports from the gate judges. They've got all their gate judges cards, and you have noted the disqualifications for each one. And that these three things form part of your referee's report that you submit to the rest of the jury for approval. Okay, so there is no place on that form for a disqualification by the athlete. It just doesn't happen. But I'm not really happy about this, and this is a teaching moment. But it's going to be a teaching moment later when I have time to talk to this coach and the other jury members can participate, because just the very requests are sanctionable. Uh, because of the misconduct, and we'll get into that when we talk about why it's sanctionable. But here's what I want to do. I want to encourage the coach to file a protest, because notwithstanding the fact that you don't need physical, it's not like a protest in dealing with a sanction. You don't need physical evidence. You're allowed to interview folks and do that. But I'd like to have in hand the protest form with the money that says I'd like to protest the results, because you can't protest. I mean, there's a limited number of things you can protest. One's against an athlete or official for behavior during the race, and other ones on against disqualification. Or you can do it against the course, but that's got, you get different time. So anyway, we're going to talk about that, but we want to draw the coach in to, dig himself deeper, because the deeper he's in there, well, when he does this, he's dragging in his two athletes into the sanction process for unsportsmanlike conduct. He's bringing in racer number 18, and he's bringing in racer number 31. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Some folks on this case study was to say, well, Andy, you just don't like coaches. Well, no, I do like coaches. I carry around at me at all times a $100 bill and a protest form to support any coach that needs to borrow that money, and the protest form to file a protest. I'm available all the time for coaches. I answer my phone and deal with coaches that are at races distances away, and they know I'll help them out when they need help. For any course set, you're going to find me at the top of the hill. You're going to find me with my little yellow book and be able to give instructions to the course setter as to the vertical drop they have, their minimum and maximum, and the distances that they're going to have to set to meet the mins or the max and not exceed the max. Okay, and I know that because I have that calculated for every race course that I've been on over the last 10 years. So if you ask me what the distances are in a GS set at Killington, I'm going to tell you what they have to be. They got to be over 26 meters or you're not going to make your numbers. And the same thing is at Tremblant, Mont Saint Marie, Camp Fortune, Mount St. Louis, Moonstone, Alpine, anywhere you want to go in the eastern part of our country, and indeed in the west as well. I can tell you that at the start of the course. And I'm going to come along with you to help you out. Now, Ryan says that sometimes I'll tell him where to set simply by putting out the outside pole in and tell him to put the turning gate 8 meters inside. But I don't recall doing that, but he's got a better memory than I do. But I'm there at the start to help you out on your course set. I've given you information. I'm going to keep track of all the gates that you are, so that any time during the course set you can turn over and say, Andy, where am I at? And I'll explain. I'll say whether you owe me a pin or owe me a flush. I always say owe me, because that's an owner. That's, I'm keeping track to make sure that you're fulfilling your obligations under the once you accept to be a course setter. So, and I'm there with my rangefinder and my measuring tape. And if you need to borrow those, you can borrow those. I've got my drill. You can borrow that if your battery runs out. I'll hold the dumb end of the tape. I'll call the numbers on the rangefinder, or I'll be your target. But I'll be there to keep track and help you out. And one of the only duties that I'll do is explain. I may give advice if you're doing something super stupid, but that's very rare. And normally it just has to be the location of where a flush might be. If it's too difficult a section for the athletes to conduct themselves properly through that section, then I might say, hey, there's a better place to do that. And don't think I just do that for at regional races or at FIS races. I do that at World Cup races too. I tell the coaches where to put their gates and where they're not going to set. And that's my job there as a technical advisor to the jury. And so I'm not picking on guys locally when I ask you to do that. But the other thing I'll do is, the course setter has an obligation to set to the safety installed. So I'm going to keep track, and I'm going to point you towards away if you're getting too close to safety, and I will be able to see that and guide you so that you're not going to get in trouble with the jury if they ever catch up to do their job of supervising the course set. The other thing I'll do is, if you haven't drilled for snow, I've drilled for snow, so I'm going to be able to tell you which sections you might want to stay away from, okay? And give guidance on the difficulty of the snow. You've been on the course during the first run course set, so you haven't had the opportunity to see what I've seen. When I move around on the hill, I know where the snow is problematic for the second run course set, and I can give you some advice on that if you need to know. So I'm not. I'm a coach's TD. I'm a coach's official. I'm there to help you guys out. But I also expect a lot of you, and I certainly expect everybody to know the rules and don't do silly things and if you have a right to file a protest, file a protest. Don't save it till after the race and decide you're going to file a grievance under the official's code of conduct, simply because you didn't understand the difference between that accreditation meant your lift ticket and course access, when you really thought it meant, when the coach really thought it meant that I was threatening to take away his coaching license. That's happened. That's happened. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, we're going to get on to the course, the case study here, and I'll ask everybody to participate. So we're going to start off with the protest that we might receive from the coach, and we'll talk about what, if you were the coach, how you would try to get that in front of the jury for review. Okay. So again, it's a sad case study because we actually have to talk about this stuff. You know, it's a different thing if we're trying to adjudicate on a rerun or a DSQ that we've looked at before. I mean, those things come up and they're part of the normal course of business, but it doesn't have to do with anybody's poor behavior. But this case study is all about poor behavior of a coach. Okay, and sure, we get poor behavior from referees, TDs, and chief or any other members of the jury. We get the odd time we do, and it's, you know, it's disappointing that we have to deal with those kind of inconsistencies in our sport. Okay, rules are rules. Okay, good. Talk about it soon.